Look around you. Not at the shiny surfaces or carefully curated social media feeds, but at the raw reality of our world. We're not living in a paradise or even a neutral testing ground. We're living in a carefully disguised nightmare where suffering isn't an accident, it's the foundation. Consider the harsh reality of modern existence. In 2024, while billionaires race to space, 700 million people still live in extreme poverty, surviving on less than $2.50 per day. In wealthy cities like New York and London, thousands sleep on streets while luxury apartments sit empty. A factory worker in Bangladesh works 16-hour shifts for barely enough to feed their family, making clothes for brands that earn billions. The evidence is everywhere. Take Sarah, a 28-year-old American drowning in $100,000 of student debt, working 2 jobs just to make minimum payments. Or Mohammed, a Syrian refugee who watched his entire life crumble, forced to flee across continents with nothing but the clothes on his back. These aren't exceptional stories. They're the daily reality for millions. Look at our modern healthcare system. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw how quickly it could collapse, how the poor and vulnerable suffered disproportionately. Even now, people die from treatable conditions because they can't afford care. A cancer diagnosis in many countries isn't just a health crisis, it's a financial death sentence. The environmental catastrophe unfolding around us isn't random either. While corporations knowingly pollute our air and water for profit, indigenous communities watch their ancestral lands disappear under rising seas. In the past decade alone, we've seen record-breaking temperatures, devastating wildfires, and storms of unprecedented intensity. The Philippines experiences an average of 20 typhoons yearly, destroying communities that have barely recovered from the last disaster. Mental health statistics tell an equally grim story. Depression and anxiety rates have skyrocketed globally. Young people report feeling hopeless about their future, crushed under the weight of impossible expectations and a dying planet. In Japan, the phenomenon of karoshi, death from overwork, claims hundreds of lives yearly. The World Health Organization reports that someone dies by suicide every 40 seconds. Our social structures aren't designed for human flourishing, they're designed for extraction. The average person spends their life in a cycle of work and consumption, too exhausted to question why they can never seem to get ahead. The American dream has become a cruel joke for most, with social mobility at historic lows. A child born into poverty in the United States today has less chance of escaping it than at any point in the past 50 years. Look at our political systems, supposedly designed to represent people's interests. Instead, they've become tools for the wealthy to consolidate power. Decisions affecting millions are made in boardrooms by people who will never face the consequences. Democracy itself is under siege globally, with authoritarianism on the rise and basic rights under threat. The violence we see isn't random either. In 2023 alone, over 40 active conflicts raged worldwide. Resources that could feed, house, and educate millions instead fund weapons and walls. Children grow up in war zones, their dreams replaced by trauma that will echo through generations. This isn't pessimism, it's reality. The world isn't broken by accident, it's operating exactly as designed. The suffering we see isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. Every hungry child, every preventable death, every crushed dream isn't a failure of the system. It's evidence of its success in maintaining a structure of control and exploitation. Throughout human history, power structures have evolved not to serve humanity, but to control it. From ancient empires to modern corporations, the fundamental mechanism remains unchanged. Concentrate power in the hands of few, while extracting value from the many. Let's examine how this system took root. In ancient civilizations, religious and political power merged to create the first systematic forms of control. The Egyptian pharaohs claimed divine right to rule, while their subjects built pyramids under the whip. The Roman Empire perfected the art of bread and circuses, keeping people just fed enough to prevent revolt, but distracted enough to accept their chains. This pattern repeats throughout history. During the Middle Ages, the feudal system bound peasants to land they could never own, working for lords who claimed God-given authority. The Church, rather than challenging this inequality, provided spiritual justification for it. The poor were told their suffering was noble, that rewards would come in the afterlife, a promise that cost nothing to make but bought centuries of compliance. The Industrial Revolution didn't break this system, it perfected it. Factory owners replaced feudal lords, but the dynamic remained. Workers traded their lives for wages that barely covered survival, while their labor built unprecedented wealth for others. Children as young as 6 worked in mines and mills, their childhood sacrificed for profit. The modern equivalent, sweatshops in developing nations, where workers face similar conditions today. Consider how this system maintains itself in our modern world. Take the banking system. It's designed to keep most people in perpetual debt. Student loans in the United States have created an entire generation of debt slaves. Credit cards offer the illusion of freedom while trapping people in high-interest cycles. Mortgages stretch for 30 years, ensuring decades of compliant labor. The education system, rather than liberating minds, often serves as a conditioning mechanism. Schools were originally modeled after factories, designed to produce obedient workers. Today, students learn to follow rules, meet standardized expectations, and accept authority, perfect training for corporate life. Critical thinking is praised in theory, but punished in practice. Media and entertainment play crucial roles in maintaining control. News organizations owned by corporate conglomerates shape narratives that serve power. Social media platforms harvest our attention and data, creating addiction while selling our lives to advertisers. Netflix and endless entertainment keep us distracted from real issues. The corporate world has perfected psychological manipulation. Advertising creates artificial needs, making us feel incomplete without products we never needed before. Fashion trends change seasonally, ensuring constant consumption. Planned obsolescence forces us to replace perfectly functional devices. The result? Oceans full of plastic, landfills overflowing with waste, and people working harder than ever to maintain an illusion of status. Look at how the system responds to threats. When workers organize, they face union-busting tactics. When protesters demand change, they meet militarized police. When journalists expose corruption, they're discredited or silenced. Environmental activists are labeled extremists, while corporations destroying the planet are called job creators. The global financial system ensures this control extends worldwide. The International Monetary Fund and World Bank impose structural adjustments that keep developing nations in debt. Resource-rich countries remain poor, while their wealth flows to foreign corporations. Currency manipulation can destroy entire economies overnight. Even our concept of success reinforces the system. We're taught to measure worth by salary, status by possessions, success by comparison to others. The self-made billionaire myth ignores inherited privilege while promoting the false promise that anyone can succeed through hard work alone. Healthcare has become another control mechanism. In many countries, people stay in jobs they hate because they can't lose health insurance. Pharmaceutical companies profit from illness rather than curing disease. Mental health issues arising from this toxic system are treated with drugs rather than addressing root causes. Food systems keep populations dependent and unhealthy. Processed foods, designed for profit rather than nutrition, create health problems that feed the medical industry. Industrial agriculture destroys local farming communities while making us reliant on corporate food chains. The machinery of suffering in our world operates with terrifying efficiency. It's not random or accidental. It's systematic, deliberate, and self-perpetuating. Let's examine how this mechanism works in our modern world. First, consider economic suffering. The system creates artificial scarcity in a world of abundance. In 2024, we produce enough food to feed 10 billion people, yet 828 million go hungry. This isn't a failure of production, it's a failure of distribution, a deliberate choice. Supermarkets lock dumpsters full of food while people starve on the streets. Look at housing, another basic human need turned into a tool of torment. In New York City alone, there are over 122,000 empty apartments, while 70,000 people sleep on the streets. Investment firms buy up neighborhoods, inflating prices beyond reach, turning homes into investment vehicles. Young people work multiple jobs just to afford rent, their dreams of ownership becoming increasingly impossible. The workplace has become a refined instrument of suffering. Take Amazon's warehouses, where workers are tracked by algorithms, their bathroom breaks timed, their movements monitored. Or consider the tech industry's crunch culture, where developers work 80-hour weeks, sacrificing health and relationships for project deadlines. In Japan, they have a word for death by overwork, karoshi, a phenomenon now spreading globally. Mental suffering has reached epidemic proportions. Anxiety and depression rates have doubled in the past decade. Young people report unprecedented levels of hopelessness. Social media creates constant comparison and inadequacy. We're more connected than ever, yet loneliness has become a public health crisis. The UK even appointed a minister for loneliness to address this modern plague. Environmental suffering shows how the system damages both planet and people. In Delhi, children develop asthma by age 5 from air pollution. Pacific Islands disappear under rising seas, while oil companies post record profits. Indigenous communities watch their ancestral lands turn to desert, while corporations drain aquifers for bottled water. The suffering of displacement has reached historic levels. Over 100 million people are currently displaced worldwide, more than at any point since World War II. They flee war, poverty, and climate disasters, only to face walls, camps, and hostility. Their suffering becomes political currency for populist leaders who blame victims rather than systems. Health has become a privilege rather than a right. In the United States, people ration insulin, choose between medicine and food, launch GoFundMe campaigns for basic procedures. A cancer diagnosis often means choosing between death and bankruptcy. Mental health support remains inaccessible for most. Therapy a luxury, while anxiety and depression soar. Education, meant to liberate, often entraps. Students graduate with crushing debt that will take decades to repay. In many countries, quality education remains a privilege of the wealthy. Children in poor areas attend underfunded schools, their potential stifled before they begin. The system reproduces inequality while pretending to offer opportunity. Even leisure has been weaponized. Free time becomes another source of anxiety. Are we productive enough? Relaxing enough? Having enough fun? Social media turns every moment into a performance, every experience into content. We can't even rest without feeling guilty or inadequate. Relationships suffer under these pressures. Financial stress remains the leading cause of divorce. Parents work so much they barely see their children. Communities fragment as people move constantly for work. Extended families dissolve as economic pressures force migration. We're losing the social bonds that once helped humans endure hardship. The suffering of meaninglessness may be the cruelest. People spend their lives in jobs they hate, producing things they don't believe in, to buy stuff they don't need. The search for purpose gets redirected into consumption. Existential questions are drowned in entertainment and distraction. Physical suffering continues despite technological advances. Preventable diseases still kill millions because treatments are profitable, but cures aren't. Chronic pain conditions increase while opioid crises rage. Our bodies break down from unnatural work patterns, stress, and processed food. The mechanisms of social control have evolved beyond physical force into sophisticated systems that shape behavior, thought, and identity. These systems work together to maintain order, not through obvious oppression, but through subtle manipulation of human psychology and social dynamics. Let's start with education. Modern schools aren't designed to create independent thinkers. They're engineered to produce compliant workers. The rigid scheduling, emphasis on obedience, standardized testing, and punishment of creativity aren't bugs. They're features. A former U.S. Secretary of Education once admitted, "The modern high school was explicitly designed to prepare students for industrial work." Today's students learn to sit still, follow instructions, and accept authority. Perfect training for corporate life. Media control has reached unprecedented sophistication. 6 corporations control 90% of American media, shaping narratives that serve power. News becomes entertainment, complex issues reduced to sound bites, while real investigative journalism struggles to survive. Social media algorithms create echo chambers, reinforcing existing beliefs while suppressing challenging viewpoints. The average person spends 7 hours daily consuming media. That's 7 hours of programmed reality. Consider the modern workplace's psychological control methods. Open offices promise transparency while enabling constant surveillance. Company culture becomes code for conformity. Workers are called family while being denied basic benefits. Performance reviews and competitive bonuses pit employees against each other, preventing solidarity. Remote work monitoring software tracks every keystroke, every mouse movement. Financial systems create invisible chains. Credit scores determine access to housing, jobs, and opportunities. Debt becomes a form of control. Student loans, mortgages, car payments keep people working jobs they hate. The average American now carries $90,000 in debt. Banks create money through loans, profiting from both interest and defaulted assets. The surveillance state grows more intrusive daily. Cameras watch city streets, facial recognition tracks movements, smartphones monitor locations. Every online search, purchase, and interaction is recorded and analyzed. Privacy becomes a luxury, while data harvesting becomes the norm. This isn't just about security, it's about creating a population that assumes it's always being watched. Social control extends to identity itself. Consumer culture creates artificial needs, linking self-worth to purchases. Fashion cycles accelerate, making people feel constantly outdated. Social media promotes impossible standards of success, beauty, and lifestyle. The result? Endless anxiety and consumption in pursuit of an unattainable ideal. Healthcare becomes another control mechanism. Insurance ties people to jobs, preventing career changes or entrepreneurship. Mental health issues arising from systemic problems are individualized and medicated. The pharmaceutical industry profits from treating symptoms rather than addressing causes. Even food becomes a control tool. Processed foods, engineered for addiction rather than nutrition, create dependent consumers. Industrial agriculture destroys local food sovereignty. Food deserts in poor neighborhoods limit access to healthy options. The result is a population too sick to resist, too busy surviving to question. Religion and ideology serve as sophisticated control mechanisms. Traditional religious institutions often reinforce existing power structures. New Age spirituality often promotes individual responsibility for systemic problems. Both can discourage questioning of fundamental inequalities. Urban design enforces social control through architecture and planning. Public spaces become privatized. Hostile architecture prevents homeless people from resting. Communities are designed for cars rather than human interaction. The result is isolation and disconnection from neighbors. Language itself becomes a control mechanism. Corporate speak obscures reality. Layoffs become right-sizing. Exploitation becomes opportunity. Political language divides populations along artificial lines. Complex issues are reduced to simplistic slogans, preventing real discussion. The gig economy presents exploitation as freedom. Workers bear all risks while platforms profit. No benefits, no security, no future. But hey, you can be your own boss. This isn't innovation, it's regression to piecework labor dressed in tech clothing. Entertainment serves as a powerful distraction. Streaming services, social media, and games provide endless escapism. Meanwhile, real issues go unaddressed, real connections unmade. It's not that entertainment is inherently bad. It's that it serves to pacify rather than enlighten. Time isn't neutral. It's a weapon of control, perhaps the most effective one ever created. In our modern world, time has been transformed from a natural flow into a rigid prison that shapes every aspect of human existence. Consider how we've structured our lives around artificial time constraints. The 9-to-5 workday wasn't created for human well-being. It was designed to maximize industrial production. Now people wake to alarms, fight morning traffic, waste hours in pointless meetings, all while watching their lives tick away on office clocks. The modern relationship with time creates constant anxiety. We're always running late, always behind schedule, always racing against deadlines. Parents rush children through breakfast to reach school on time. Workers skip lunch to meet project deadlines. Everyone is constantly checking the time, feeling it slip away, experiencing what psychologists call time poverty. Look at how time controls our life stages. Education must be completed by certain ages. Career advancement has strict timelines. Marriage, children, retirement, society sets rigid schedules for life's major events. Deviate from these timelines and you face judgment and disadvantages. A 40-year-old student or a 60-year-old starting a new career faces unnecessary obstacles. The monetization of time has reached extreme levels. Time is money. Becomes literal. Every minute must be productive, every hour accountable. Leisure time becomes another source of stress. Are we relaxing efficiently? Are we making the most of our weekend? Even our rest becomes scheduled, programmed, optimized. The workplace demonstrates time's oppressive power. Hourly wages reduce human life to units of time sold. Overtime becomes a tool of exploitation. Time tracking software monitors every minute. Bathroom breaks are timed. Lunch hours shrink. The United States remains the only developed nation without legally mandated paid vacation time. Technology promised to save time, but instead colonized it completely. Smartphones ensure we're always available, always working. Emails arrive 24/7, demanding immediate responses. Social media scrolling devours hours we don't remember losing. Netflix autoplays the next episode while sleep time evaporates. Consider how time affects mental health. Depression often involves a disturbed relationship with time. The past becomes overwhelming, the future threatening. Anxiety revolves around time, worrying about deadlines, aging, running out of time. The present moment, where peace might be found, becomes almost impossible to experience. Aging reveals time's cruelest aspects. Society worships youth while devaluing age. Workers face discrimination as they get older. Women especially suffer from time-based judgment, pressured about biological clocks, and losing their beauty. The anti-aging industry profits from these fears, selling the impossible dream of stopping time. The retirement system shows how time becomes a trap. People spend their healthiest years working, saving time for leisure when they're too old to fully enjoy it. Many can't afford to retire at all, working until they physically can't continue. The golden years become a myth for most. Even our relationship with death has been distorted. Modern society denies death, hides it away in hospitals and nursing homes. We don't learn to accept time's passage. We rage against it, fear it, try to pretend it isn't happening. This denial causes tremendous suffering. The fastest-growing religion in developed nations is busyness. Being busy becomes a status symbol, a sign of importance. People humble brag about their packed schedules, their lack of sleep, their stress levels. This isn't success, it's Stockholm Syndrome, with time as the captor. Our society operates on shared illusions, beliefs so deeply embedded in our collective consciousness that we rarely question them. These illusions shape our reality, control our behavior, and maintain the status quo. The first great illusion is the myth of meritocracy. We're told that hard work guarantees success, that the system rewards merit. Reality tells a different story. Studies show that social mobility has decreased significantly. A child born into poverty in America has less chance of reaching the middle class than in almost any other developed nation. Yet this illusion persists, blaming individuals for systemic failures. Consider the illusion of consumer choice. Walk into any supermarket, you see hundreds of brands, but follow the money, and most lead back to just 10 major corporations. The same illusion exists in media, banking, and technology. We have the appearance of choice while actual options shrink. Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook, all one company. The illusion of competition masks growing monopolies. The happiness illusion might be the most pervasive. We're sold an image of happiness tied to consumption. Buy this car, wear these clothes, take this vacation, and you'll be happy. Yet depression and anxiety rates keep rising. The average person sees 4,000 to 10,000 advertisements daily, each promising fulfillment through purchase. It's a promise that can never be kept. Social media creates powerful collective illusions. People present curated versions of their lives, creating impossible standards others try to match. The result? A society comparing their behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. Studies show that increased social media use correlates directly with decreased life satisfaction. The illusion of informed consent shapes our participation in digital systems. We click agree on terms of service we never read, surrendering our data, privacy, and rights. Companies know we don't read them, they're designed that way. The average person would need 76 workdays annually to read all their privacy policies. Consider the money illusion. Most people think money represents real value, but modern currency is backed by nothing except collective belief. Banks create money through loans, governments print it at will, yet we all agree to pretend it has consistent value. This shared illusion enables tremendous financial control. The illusion of separate self serves power structures. We're taught to see ourselves as isolated individuals competing for scarce resources. This masks our fundamental interconnectedness and prevents collective action. Environmental destruction becomes someone else's problem. Poverty becomes personal failure. Education perpetuates professional illusions. Students pursue degrees believing they guarantee good jobs, often accumulating massive debt. The reality? Many graduates work in fields unrelated to their studies, while trades facing labor shortages offer solid careers without requiring degrees. The health and beauty industry thrives on manufactured illusions. Perfect bodies are photoshopped, yet presented as attainable goals. Natural processes like aging become problems, requiring expensive solutions. The global beauty industry, worth over $500 billion, sells insecurity disguised as empowerment. Political illusions maintain power structures. Democracy becomes performative. People vote between pre-selected candidates, while real decisions happen in corporate boardrooms. The illusion of choice masks the reality of oligarchy. Left versus right becomes theater, while wealth concentration continues under any party. Even our sense of normalcy is an illusion. We accept as normal a world where billions live in poverty, while billionaires race to space, where rain contains microplastics, where oceans fill with waste, where species go extinct daily. This isn't normal, but the illusion that it is prevents us from demanding change. Throughout history, myths and symbols have served as powerful tools for understanding and controlling human behavior. Today, these ancient patterns continue in modern forms, shaping how we think and act in ways we rarely recognize. The American dream remains one of the most powerful modern myths. Like ancient tales of promised lands, it offers a vision of prosperity through virtue and hard work. Yet today, with social mobility at historic lows and wealth inequality at record highs, this myth primarily serves to justify systemic inequalities. People struggling in poverty are told they simply haven't worked hard enough. Consider how corporate symbols have replaced religious icons. Apple's logo is more widely recognized than most religious symbols. Nike's swoosh represents not just shoes but an identity, a lifestyle. These corporate symbols tap into the same psychological needs once served by religious iconography: belonging, identity, meaning. Modern advertising creates contemporary myths about human nature. It tells us we're naturally competitive rather than cooperative, consumers rather than creators. These stories shape behavior more effectively than direct commands. People internalize these myths, seeing themselves primarily as economic units rather than social beings. Success myths dominate our culture. The self-made billionaire narrative ignores inherited privilege and systemic advantages. Stories of entrepreneurs working from garages to global empires omit family wealth, connections, and luck. These myths justify extreme inequality while promoting an impossible ideal. The myth of technological salvation has replaced religious prophecies of redemption. We're told technology will solve climate change, cure diseases, and poverty if we just wait and believe. Meanwhile, these problems worsen while tech companies accumulate unprecedented power. Social media creates modern mythologies of perfection. Instagram influencers become contemporary deities, their lives carefully curated myths that millions strive to emulate. Like ancient gods, they seem to live above normal human constraints, setting impossible standards others try to follow. The workplace has its own mythology. The passionate worker who lives for their job replaces the religious ascetic. Hustle culture becomes a modern form of sacrifice. Corporate mission statements echo religious creeds. Office rituals, meetings, reviews, retreats mirror religious ceremonies. Educational myths shape life paths. The story that college degrees guarantee success leads millions into debt. The myth that certain careers are respectable, while others aren't, channels people away from needed trades. These narratives serve institutions rather than individuals. Consider how poverty myths persist. The poor are portrayed as lacking virtue rather than opportunities, just as ancient myths blamed the unfortunate for their fate. These stories justify systemic inequality while preventing real change. Health and medicine generate powerful modern myths. The body becomes a battlefield between good and evil forces. Diseases have personalities. Foods become either saints or sinners. These metaphors shape how we think about health and influence treatment choices. Environmental myths reveal our relationship with nature. The story of human dominion over nature justifies exploitation. The myth that technology will fix everything prevents necessary changes. These narratives serve corporate interests while hastening environmental collapse. Political myths maintain power structures. The myth of the strong leader who will solve everything. The story that voting is the only meaningful political action. The narrative that change must come slowly through proper channels. These myths prevent genuine reform. Even resistance gets mythologized. Revolutionary figures become sanitized saints, their radical messages dulled. Martin Luther King Jr.'s radical economic message gets reduced to comfortable dreams. Che Guevara becomes a t-shirt design. These transformations serve power by making real change seem impossible. Understanding the true nature of our world isn't enough. Knowledge must lead to action. Having examined how systems of control operate, we must consider what can be done to create meaningful change. First, recognize that individual awareness is essential but insufficient. The system maintains itself by isolating people, making them feel powerless alone. Real change requires collective action, building communities of resistance and support. Start locally, connect with neighbors, join community organizations, create support networks. Education becomes crucial, not institutional education, but critical understanding. Learn to recognize manipulation in media, advertising, and political discourse. Study history to understand how change happens. Share knowledge with others, but remember that harsh truths require compassionate delivery. Economic resistance is vital. Support local businesses over corporations. Create cooperative enterprises. Build alternative economic networks. Reduce debt where possible. Remember that every dollar is a vote for what kind of world we want. Protect your mental health. The system profits from anxiety, depression, and isolation. Build genuine connections. Spend time in nature. Create art. Find meaning outside consumer culture. Help others do the same. Mental clarity is revolutionary in a system that profits from confusion. Reclaim your time. Resist the pressure to be constantly productive. Create spaces for genuine rest and reflection. Build relationships that aren't mediated by screens or commerce. Remember that time spent strengthening community isn't wasted. Practice strategic non-compliance. You can't fight every battle, but choose where to draw lines. Refuse to participate in harmful practices when possible. Support others who take stands. Small acts of resistance, multiplied across populations, create change. Guard your attention. It's your most valuable resource. Be selective about media consumption. Turn off notifications. Create times for deep focus and genuine presence. The system can't control what it can't capture. Build practical skills. Learn to grow food, repair things, create what you need. Each skill gained is independence earned. Share these skills with others. Resilient communities are harder to control than dependent consumers. Remember that despair serves the system. While the situation is serious, humanity has faced and overcome tremendous challenges before. Every major positive change in history seemed impossible until it happened. Focus on children, not just protecting them but preparing them. Teach critical thinking, encourage creativity, show them alternatives to consumer culture. Help them build genuine self-worth outside of systemic validation. Most importantly, maintain your humanity. The system wants us to become cold, calculating, isolated. Resist by cultivating compassion, including for yourself. Create beauty, share joy, help others. These aren't distractions from resistance, they're essential parts of it. The path forward isn't easy or clear, but it exists. It begins with seeing clearly, continues through connection and action, and leads toward a world with more justice and genuine freedom. The system depends on our acceptance. When enough people withdraw that acceptance, change becomes possible. Remember, the opposite of control isn't chaos, it's genuine human flourishing. The alternative to exploitation isn't collapse, it's sustainable cooperation. Another world isn't just possible, it's necessary. Thank you for watching this profound exploration of our world's true nature. If these insights resonated with you, please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your perspective matters, and can help others understand they're not alone in their observations. Don't forget to subscribe to catch more deep dives into crucial topics that affect us all. Your support enables us to continue creating content that challenges conventional thinking and explores important truths. If you found value in this video, please hit the like button and share it with friends and family who might benefit from this perspective. Every share helps spread awareness and builds a community of critical thinkers. Together, we can foster understanding and create meaningful dialogue about the world we live in. Thank you for being part of this journey of discovery and awareness. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.